So I think I'll just talk a little more about when to change your thoughts versus when to make a change, because it's the same process about how to make a change efficiently. And this actually goes back to your point, Sylvie, which is that you want to work on changing your thoughts first and then make the change with the changed mindset, because then you end up, first of all, making the change that you want to be making rather than a reactive change. You're empowering yourself with different ways of thinking. So you can then figure out what you want. So you have to start by noticing all these unhelpful thoughts, first of all, and you have to notice them and you have to see them. And so a lot of the work in coaching is untangling these thoughts. It's actually really hard for us to see them. And I will be coaching with people and it's like, oh, there's your scarcity mindset again. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize, it's always so. What I see it as is sort of a mirror into your mind, and it's very helpful and makes the process much more efficient, because the smarter your brain is, the more we tangle up a lot of these thoughts and old habits. And so starting to notice all the thoughts, and some people really struggle with feelings. And so there are a lot of tools about how to actually figure out what your feelings are, because if you think back to physician training, we were actually trained not to feel so much. And so many of us actually need to practice this and slow down enough. That's actually why I do like pause and presence, is slowing down enough to listen, and at learning how to listen, which is also really important. And then the other thing is, when you hear whatever it is, not judging it, because we're expert judgers. And so you have to notice it without judgment and actually listen. And for many of us, that actually takes quite a bit of time. And then you have to notice how those thoughts that you have are impacting your reality right now. And so oftentimes those thoughts that we have, maybe they make us feel scarce, or maybe they make us feel defensive, or maybe we feel like a victim in our job, or maybe we, I can't think of another one at the moment, but those thoughts generally impact how you're showing up for things. And you want to own that already, because that's why you have the results you have. That's why you're staying where you're staying, or that's why you haven't started the dream practice that you want. So you have to kind of see where you are. And then not only not judge it, but you kind of have to accept it and not resist it. And most of us don't love doing that. So you can accept and not like it. You can accept and be disappointed. You can accept and think it's not like you thought it would be. You can accept and wish it were different. Like, I love adding something to the accept, because I don't like radical acceptance. I'm not happy with that. I'd like to have a little say in the matter. So I will not like it, or I'll hate it, or I'll be angry. But when you accept it and stop resisting it, that's where you can start to see where you want to move and what you want to move towards. And again, the key thing here when you are making a change is you have to be moving towards something and not away from something. And so once you've cleaned up your mind, seen these thoughts, seen how they're impacting you, and accepting not only the situation, but how you've shown up for it so far, and owning your part in it, then you start to figure out, okay, well, what do I really want? And what I mean here is what you actually really want, not what you should want, or not what other people think you want. So really getting into what makes you come alive, or what a lot of people really want to do something totally different, but they feel like they can't say it even. And sometimes it's a slight tweak of what they're doing, but it's not been done before. And so many people are like, well, I'm going to go get that job over there and I'll sign up for it, but it's not really what they want. And so figuring out what you really want is really important. And then taking care of your nervous system. Then you're ready to make a change. Most people make the change first. And then it doesn't work out well, because they bring all of that old stuff with them without seeing it. And so I usually say it's when you're okay staying or going, and you're very steady, and you sort of sussed out the situation and you feel clear and confident, then you make the change and it actually helps you. And so I often say, like, if change is, and I know many of you have heard me say this, what love would do, then you're ready to make a change. And so change and or leaving. When you think, well, I could stay or I could go, and either would be okay, either has good and bad things. And then it's like, but this is what I want to do, moving towards something. The other thing is, maybe you've done your coaching and your brain is clear, but the issue is that in order to stay there, you have to coach yourself all day, every day. Then you should be making a change. And so we tend to, that becomes obvious through coaching. And what I find is people in the beginning aren't really sure. And then all of a sudden they get to this point where they value themselves too much. And they're like, I'm out, like today's the day, when maybe they weren't even 2 weeks ago, they weren't even thinking about it. But once you get your mind clear and you start really listening, it's really powerful. And then people actually know what they want to do. And I will say that the OBGYN, we'd been coaching for a while. And then she said, I gave my notice and this is what I'm going to do. Like within 2 weeks, like all of a sudden, she said, well, in the last coaching session, I had this epiphany and I just realized that I thought I couldn't do it. And she had all these reasons why, and we'd done coaching around it. And she was like, and once I realized I could do it, like I couldn't stay there even another day. I mean, she's still there, by the way, because you have a long lead time to leave. But meanwhile, she's working on this thing that's her passion. And so she's just a totally different human. And I will say a lot of it, like the time to change, you almost know when it comes. And a lot of us are very urgent. We want it to come fast. But if you take it slowly, and if I look at my own sort of story of change, it was probably 5 years before I changed. I changed a little bit, before I made the big change. And so I think it's really important to set yourself up for success in the change. And when we just want to change and make it better, we tend to not end up where we would like. And then I think also not coming from scarcity. Many of us make a change. We pick a job because we're worried we won't get another one or we won't have enough money. We as physicians tend to have tons of scarcity mindset. And it was kind of ingrained in us. That's the lucky you have a job. And so that can, you want to make sure that you're not coming from scarcity when you make a change and that you're actually making the change for the right reasons. And the right reason meaning that there's something else you genuinely want to do, or you genuinely want something different for your life. And that's where I get back to that language. You're ready to graduate, or you've done enough of this. And that was really for me very clear. I had done enough of, every 15-minute visits. I'd seen tens of thousands of children. And I had been doing it for 18 years. And that was like, I was like, yeah, I've had enough of that. I'm actually really ready to do something different in the world. And even though I didn't do that full time because I had a lot of administrative roles, I was still just very ready. And so another way to think about it that makes it easier is it's complete. That part of my life is complete. I'm ready for the next part of my life. And so some of these things might help you, Sylvie. You've done enough of what you've done and you're ready for something new. And then it's just this very peaceful bit. So I do think it's really important not to leave, to change how you feel, not to run away, not to get your needs met by a job or another person. Like you have to learn how to meet them yourself. Sometimes we leave to prove a point. And so you really want to be leaving for these right reasons. And you really want to go through the process of cleaning up your brain before you change. And so if you're looking back kind of at the beginning of what we were talking about, if you don't see all the reasons why it's hard, and not all of those reasons will be you. Some of us, all of them are you, but just realizing that those are common ones. And so figuring out which is the one for me that's getting me stuck. And there may be multiple. And then the beautiful thing about coaching is working with your brain to figure out the way out. Because oftentimes we say, oh, there's this phrase and you should just practice this phrase. That doesn't work for everybody's brain. So you actually have to kind of work with your brain to figure out what's going to help you shift your thought patterns. And so what I find, and it's actually why I love Zoom coaching, because I remember Jillian's face when we started talking about the tree. And I was like, that's her word. Like you throw out a bunch of words and it's like so obvious, the whole body language changes and the face relaxes. And so a lot of it is kind of, it's like teasing it out to figure out where your brain is going to accept the change. And sometimes you'll say things and the clue is in what you say, but we don't notice what we say. And so it's like, oh, but you said this and you believe this. And so can you apply that here? And that can really help you get around those thought patterns. So does anyone have other questions they want to ask or?
Hi, Jessie.
Yeah.
My question, I guess, is how does group coaching differ from one-on-one coaching?
So, well, group coaching, the beauty of group coaching is that you watch other people get coached. And so you learn from seeing how they shift. And oftentimes, so many of us want to jump in and fix other people when we're group coaching, which is our doctor tendency. But we actually talk about that in the first session of the group, that your work is to figure out how this problem that they're having applies to you. And one of the beautiful things about group coaching is that many people will say, I didn't realize that was my problem until she said this. And I'll actually give a funny example that the woman I was telling you about who has her new practice, before she decided this, there was a thing at her work where there was an email that just was like the last straw. And she was talking about this email and her getting coached on this. Someone else in the group came to their one-on-one afterwards and said to me, well, now, like, that just elucidated everything for me. And it just made her whole course clear and like what her next step was. And she hadn't seen it herself and she wasn't being coached, but watching someone else coached and hearing their story and hearing how they work through it and seeing where they're getting stuck can often very much help you get unstuck. The other thing that's different about group coaching than one-on-one is that in group coaching, at least the way I do it, I usually do teaching of some kind in the beginning. So we'll talk about something or something that's been coming up. I don't run through like modules or videos, or that's just not my style, but I usually teach around some concept that's either applies to transitions or an ongoing presence. It's everything. And I usually know because there are always people in both groups that do the hybrid. So they do group coaching and one-on-one coaching. And so I know what issues are coming up. So group coaching is also, of course, more sustainable. So you end up having a lot more time in your coaching group. And many people say that they didn't realize that other people have the same issues. And so it's very much a sense of belonging and a sense of normalizing partly the physician brain and partly our journeys. You would be surprised at how many people who come to coaching have bumpy journeys, but I think it really helps people soften and relax around it so they don't think they're broken and they shift into a new space. There isn't a right way. So one-on-one coaching, you really sort of tackle your own issues. So you don't have that container and community to sort of see that other people are also going through this. But some people love it because they don't feel comfortable actually getting coached in front of the group. Or they really, I always think it's a little bit more efficient, right? Because you're tackling your own things. Sometimes it's not, because it takes a little longer to get at your own, what's the thing that's getting in your way. But for the most part, it's all you for the whole hour. I mean, it's always all you for the whole hour. So we're really focusing on what's going on with you. And so time-wise, it's a little bit more efficient because it's focused on your own issues. And I think part of it is knowing yourself and how comfortable you are in a group. What I actually think is optimal is a blend of the two. And that's actually why I offer the hybrid, because I think that's where most people want their time and they want to actually say, this came up and this is my issue and this is where I'm stuck. And so it actually gives you a place to really work on both. And many people also might have something in their relationship or something they really don't want to bring up in the group. And so it gives you a space to really tackle something that maybe you don't feel as comfortable. So I don't actually think one is better than the other. I have people who will do one-on-one first, and then they'll join a group. Some people join the group first, and then they add on one-on-one. Some people just do group and they get what they need in a group. So I don't think our brain says there's a right one. There isn't a right one. You kind of need to know yourself and whether you want, the groups offer community. And a lot of people really like that because we're together over 5 or 6 months. And so you really do get to know one another and feel like, you have a connection, even though you've actually never met the people because they're on Zoom. But I think it actually, for many of us, we crave connection and we crave community. And I think we feel isolated in our journeys and our struggles, especially around transitions, because I think it's something that's often hard to talk about, and we don't want to make other people feel bad, and we don't want to be judged for the way it's worked or the way it's not worked. And we are already judging ourselves. And so being in a community of people that are going through the same thing can be really helpful. But I think the key thing is to know you and to know yourself. I will say for me, when I first started coaching, I was not really going to speak up in the group. So for me, when I had done one-on-one coaching, I was totally happy to speak up in a group after that. But I didn't really feel like I got it in the beginning. And so for me, it was really important. I actually did it in the flip. I did group coaching first, and then I did some one-on-one coaching. For me, it was really important to do my own thing first and then join a group. That doesn't mean you should. I just learned that about myself over the process. And I always like having my one-on-ones, always. Like, that's like my gift to myself. And I always things pop up that I wasn't aware of. So I think either way is fine. But in an ideal world, you do a blend of both. And then you get your time and you get the value of learning from other people. Anyone else have questions? Beautiful. Look at me ending on time. That's not my style. So beautiful. I am available. Anyone can email me if you all have any other questions or you're wondering. Most of us wonder what's right for us, and many people send me emails saying, well, this is my situation. What do you think? I'm more than happy to weigh in. If I don't know you personally, it's a little bit harder, but several of you I've coached a few times, so I know a bit about you. But I think many of us want that reassurance. So if you're feeling like anxious about it, on the other hand, it's joining coaching group is a little bit like change. Like you kind of have to decide you're going to go for it and see whether it can help you. It's like, what's the potential gain? We tend to think about, well, I don't know if it's not going to work. I don't want to do it. But there is that sort of possibility and potential gain that I see. I don't see anyone saying, oh, I shouldn't have done that. At the end, people really do grow and change. And but I think that's all those same things that get in the way of making change, get in the way of figuring out what you want to do. They have the same impact on jumping into something that you haven't tried before, or that you feel nervous about. So feel free to email me, reach out, or if you want to stay on and ask me a question, I'm happy to do that for a few minutes. And otherwise, it was super fun to see you all. And I will be back to doing these at some point, probably in a few months. I usually do them before I do groups. So I'll do ones on parenting before the parenting group, or and I actually think they're fun. And what I really love is that I've done 4, and there've been about the same number. The decision one actually had a lot more people, but all different people at all of them. And it was kind of fun to meet different people in different places and see some old friends again. So nice to see you all, and reach out if you have any questions. And I will see you all soon.
Thank you. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nice to see you.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Jessie.
You're welcome. Nice to see you.
Seeing you.